it's Jason Cunningham and welcome to Save My Business, Episode 3, the podcast aimed at helping small and medium-sized businesses navigate through this, what can I say, shitstorm. And today's guest is a bit of a rock star himself, to be honest with you. He's got a slight drinking problem, but other than that, this guy, he knows it all. Well, he doesn't profess to be anyway. He's a very humble entrepreneur and a good client of the firm. His name is Kristian Klein and he's the founder of Mr Miyagi. Christian, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
That's all right, pal. Mate, pretty pumped to have you here. I must say, some of the stuff you've been doing the last 3 months has been, it's been quite exciting to watch and see it unfold. And I mean, overnight, some would say, you've become a success. Don't you love that when you've been working your ass off for so many years and then all of a sudden you're this overnight success? Christian, I wanted you to share with our audience where the business is at now, if we can, and then I want to wind it all the way back and walk us through the story. Tell us a bit about Mr Miyagi, not only the food and the magnificent cuisine you guys dish up, but some of the collaborative things that you've been doing in recent times, pal.
Yeah, well, we've been going for 7 years, or almost 8 now, and the corona thing hit and everyone frazzled and we thought, what are we going to do? And are we going to shut? Is this the end of it? Hospitality is a difficult, low profit margin game in the first place, and you get hit with something significant like this with a lot of unknowns. All of a sudden, we thought, what's going to happen? But after the shock and the sadness and the stress and all this stuff, we very quickly moved into, all right, well, if this is going to happen, and it is happening, how the hell are we going to get through it? Because shutting up shop isn't really an option for us.
So just before you go, Mr Miyagi, the restaurant, is in South Area, is that correct?
Yeah, we're in Chapel Street, Windsor.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in business in a traditional bricks and mortar restaurant? How long had you been doing that?
Since 2013, November. So in the 7 years, it's taken us that time to work out how to make the bricks and mortar restaurant work. And we've only sort of just in the last few years really started to fine tune it to a point where we're like, hey, we've got it zinging, you know, we've worked it out. We've got the economics of it worked out so that we can run a successful, profitable business, for the foreseeable future. But
along come a little thing called Corona.
And we had a little speed hump in the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started thinking how we're going to do it. What are we going to do? What are our options? We've got 5 leases on different premises. We've got a kitchen that does some of our bulk prep and we use for our catering and events company. We've got the Chapel Street restaurant. Next door to the Chapel Street restaurant, we've got another lease that's actually connected to the Chapel Street restaurant now, but they're running on different leases. So I've got multiple landlords there. We've got
that's nice and challenging.
Yeah, well that's it, right? Trying to work with one is hard enough.
Yeah, right.
Let alone 5. We've got an office. We've got all sorts of stuff because we geared up to try and expand and do more. And then this thing's hit, so all of a sudden, what are we going to do? We've got this place in Chatham Street in Paran, around the corner, that we originally ran as a takeaway and a Uber restaurant, sort of dark kitchen.
Dark kitchen, is it like the dark web? Or?
Yeah. Sort of, when Uber's involved. We're running this kitchen and it just wasn't really working for us. We, like a lot of people, really invested in the whole idea of Uber and doing takeaway food through these platforms, but the economics of it are really, really difficult. So we thought, let's reactivate that space and try and do it a bit consumer facing, and let's do a cook at home offering. And so within a day of the hospitality industry getting shut down, we had reopened that shop.
Wow.
We'd had videos shot for how to cook things at home. We'd done all sorts of stuff. And looking back on it now, compared to what's out there now, it's very average. But it started the process of, okay, let's work this and let's keep doing things that are going to be potentially successful. So we haven't stopped. There hasn't been a moment where we've had a week off or we've shut the doors or that the office hasn't been functioning. we're there or at home, but that the core sort of day-to-day guys running the business, we haven't had any time off.
So tell me this. So things are finally humming in the restaurant game, right? We've finally worked it out, and you keep mentioning the economics of it all, and I'm going to come back to that if I can. But you got your numbers right. You're starting to turn a bit of a profit. You're starting to make a bit of cash and declaring all of that on your best statement, no doubt about that. But you're starting to go really well, Christian, and then all of a sudden your world changes. The hospitality industry is shut down, and you take one day. You lose your mind for one day, and then bang, you're up and running again.
I'd say we lost our mind for an hour, and then it's really important for us and for me and the way that we do things. It's like some things we can't help. So we can cry about it, we can be upset about it, we can crack it, we can stomp our feet, but you got to look forward. You got to look positively, and we made a really serious effort to make sure that everything that we were doing was positive.
So what was the first thing? What was the first decision? You went and reignited, if you like, that the micro business that was servicing the delivery platform business. Is that right?
Yeah. We'd cleared it out like 2 weeks beforehand.
Yeah, right.
We'd gone, you know what, this Uber thing, it's not working. We're going to have to rethink it. What can we do? So we had this blank canvas down there. So we thought, the restaurant was still able to. There was that awkward week where you could have people in the restaurant before they completely shut it out.
Yeah.
And so we'd reopened that takeaway shop before that all shut down. And it went well. We were on the Today Show. We pushed some serious marketing. We had the PR girls go nuts pushing this stuff out. Like Mr Miyagi's pivoting, it was such a buzzword. Mr Miyagi's pivoting, we're doing this, we're doing that. And it was a bit exciting because we had to reopen and come up with this new concept in a week. Anyway, it didn't work. So that's the moral of the story. But I think it set the precedent for us that we just got to keep trying stuff.
But we were pivoting.
Yeah, it was a great pivot. We were spinning on the spot. Looked like a ballerina. It was brilliant. But we just had to. We got to keep going. We got to keep doing stuff. And we watched other restaurants in the street. Where they just shut and they went, we're going to see what happens. And I don't know. I just was against that sort of mindset. How are we going to do it? That didn't work. Sweet. How are we going to fix it? How are we going to change it?
So what was idea number 2?
Idea number 2, we then shut that shop again.
Yeah.
Here we are, after all setting it up for a week. Yeah. And we moved what we were doing back to the restaurant because the Chapel Street frontage is helpful. We get foot traffic and car traffic and whatnot. So we reignited that and we put our cook at home offerings in there, and then we started doing takeaway, and that was the start of something that I've always been so against because I'm massive on experiences, and I feel like takeaway can be such a negative experience with some things that are almost out of your control a lot of the time.
Right. Now I'm really keen on that. Now that sort of explains a lot to me, Christian, that whole experience piece, because then I might be jumping a few steps ahead, but along come the whole collab or collaboration experience, and that's where things started to really pop up in my radar. Was some of the things you were doing with other restaurants or other takeaway houses. Is that why that was born? Because you're big on the experience piece and that whole date night and all that sort of stuff that you guys are doing?
Well, sort of. The takeaway stuff was going really well, and for the first time, we started pushing a digital marketing strategy beyond our organic social media stuff. So we engaged a social media company, Social Status, and they started pushing paid ads out, targeted ads out to people in the vicinity saying, Mr Miyagi's doing takeaway, Mr Miyagi's doing takeaway.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked really, really well, and we were absolutely heaving. We were doing crazy numbers, especially on Friday and Saturday nights. But we had to turn our restaurant from this. I always talk about Mr Miyagi as being it's not a place where you go and get good food. It's a place where you go and you have a great night.
Yeah.
And we focus more on the experience than we do on the food. It just so happens we've got this incredible chef and he makes incredible food. So it's the cherry on top of how we see the restaurant going. But we like it to be a really great place. And when you have that taken away from you, you're like, oh. And that's what I mean by the experience thing. We provide a fun a fun night. And now
because you're a bit of a fun time guy as well.
So I'm told. So yeah, we I don't know. It didn't. It's very difficult to translate experience into takeaway.
Yeah.
So what we found after a relatively short period of time is that the Windsor locals, who had been so fantastic to us and so helpful, and the whole support local message, and they were brilliant, but the sales just started decreasing.
Yeah.
And I guess if you think about it, we were pushing the same message to the same people every day of the week. And so we say, hey, Jason, I know your dinner was pretty good on Thursday. You want to get on Friday, right? and you go,
and then
nah.
after a while, I'm having dumplings for breakfast. I think I might try something different.
Exactly, right? So we're pushing, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, you know what? Not only do I not want to eat Miyagi tonight, because I've had it 3 times in the last 2 weeks, I'm also sick of seeing their shit.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want the ad on my Instagram anymore. I'm done. Get me away from Miyagi.
Yeah. Brutally honest, mate. Brutally honest.
And so we started seeing this decrease in sales. So we thought, what are we going to do now? We looked like we were going to be okay, and now the sales are coming down, and they were still very sustainable and good, but we were seeing a decrease, which is not the trend you want. So the idea came around of people can't come to us because they won't travel. Most people won't travel further than their local main strip to get takeaway. Yeah. If you go and order a pizza, you're not getting it from the next suburb, even though it's only 5 minutes down the road. If it's not right there, you won't get it. It's like this mental block that we've got. So we thought, why don't we could take our food to them? How are we going to do that? And we flirted with the ideas of food trucks, or how are we going to get how are we going to set this up so that we can do any volume of food that actually works for us? And then a really close friend of mine, Harry, has a couple of cafes in Cheltenham and Murrumbina. And I called Harry and I said, hey, you're not using your kitchen at night. Could we come in and cook in it? And he said, yeah. And I said, he's a friend. So I said, we'll look after it. We'll take care of it. Come in. We're just trying to work out what's happening. But if you wouldn't be against doing that, we could work out a way that works for everyone. And we thought about the positives, like what a great community feel. We can go out to the burbs, and we can partner with cafes that have a great social standing in their community, and we go with the good ones, and we go to the good guys, and we ended up sort of structuring this thing that they will make the dessert, and we pass on all the revenue from the dessert from the customer to them, and we come in and do the rest.
Yeah.
So we started off small, and we went out to Frank's, and it went nuts, and it sold out in like an hour.
Wow. And
we went, oh my goodness, like what's happening? This is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And it sold out, and then we planned another one, and then another one, and as we got more confident and more efficient, and we increased the numbers, and now we've done 40-something events.
Wow.
And we've met so many amazing people, and
because I know you've done one. I know you guys are over in South Yarra, Toorak, Windsor. I live in the Toorak of the North.
Yeah.
I live in Essendon, and I saw you did one. I think it was at Assembly Ground. I think you did one at Ascot Food House or whatever.
We've done 2 at Assembly Ground.
Yeah.
And we've done 2 at Ascot.
Yeah.
And they're great.
Yeah.
They're great. And every time we do one, we refine our systems a bit better, and we make it a bit more efficient, and we make it a bit more, we make it a bit more customer focused, and how do we provide experience during pickup, and because we just keep working at it.
I reckon I saw on a social media post it said something like date night with Assembly Ground or something like that. Is that right? Yeah. Because if there's one thing I've heard over the last sort of 4, 5, maybe 6 months is this whole shouldering the load, and I'm sick of government slogans that we're all in this together and all that crap. But business owners are talking to each other about, hey, look, we've both got to take a hit here. We've both got to take a haircut here. How can we help each other survive? And you've really sort of lent on that whole collaborative piece around working with other business owners. And I guess what I've really enjoyed listening to is your humility around, hey, if we stuffed it up, I nearly dropped one of those French words there, Christian. Look, if we stuff it up, we stuff it up. Let's wipe the slate clean and let's start again. And you haven't got too far ahead of yourself to understand that, hey, my existing clientele, those loyal customers that have loved the experience over in Windsor, there's only so much of the experience they're going to love. And so let's take this to the people. And if they love it over here, I'm sure they're going to love it in the north, the south, the east, and the west. And that, I think that's quite humble and quite smart. Now, can I ask you this question? When the corona first hit and we were locked out of our businesses, you did this really quick turnaround. And I said it was in a day, and you said, oh, Jay, it's probably more like an hour. Where does that come from? I mean, a lot of people take a fair bit longer to, pick up their toys and put their big boy pants on and get going. How come you were so quick to just say, well, this is outside of my control. I've got to do something. I'm not going to put my, lay down and give up. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, it's definitely a trait that come from my dad.
Yeah, right.
He was in market research. And I guess his whole career and his whole business was based around listening to problems and finding the good and finding the solutions. Yeah. That was, you'd have someone come and say, hey, what's wrong with my product? And his whole world was based around, well, these are the problems with your product. But this is what you can do to fix it.
Yeah. You know what? I love that notion of not just here's the problem, and then also present a proposed solution to help you get to that. So were you having conversations over the dinner table after school and all that sort of stuff? Or?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And there was one thing that he always instilled in me that is something that I live by. And it relates because he'd always say, it doesn't matter what's happened or what you've done, it's what you do to fix it.
Yeah, right.
And you can make the biggest mistake and you can cock everything up, but if you apologise, right, a lot of the time someone goes, oh, geez, made a big mistake, but good bloke, fix that.
Yeah, right.
And I live by that of we can give the customer the worst experience of all time and they hate our guts. Yeah. And sometimes it happens. Yeah. And it's not because we've done the wrong thing, or sometimes just shit happens, right? And it sucks, but we make sure that you fix it. Because if you fix it, then the person goes, oh, listen, but you know what? Yeah. They sorted it out, and now I have more respect for them than I did before.
That's right, because they owned their mistake, right? So tell me this, Christian, how do you instill that mentality within your team? Because I'm tipping, and I don't know all your team, but I'm tipping not everyone rolls into work with that positive Christian Klein attitude that, oh, well, let's find the freaking good in everything. How do you lead a team like that?
I think it's you just got to lead by example. And our guys we all work so well as a team, and we all, if anyone doesn't have that mentality, if someone starts saying no, I don't mind the word no, but it needs to be followed up with, but what about if we try this? And then you've got a moving conversation. Don't say that something's a crap idea if you don't have a better one. Yeah. Because that's not workshopping. So we just push that. We have these roundtable conversations, and they end up with a lot of people very cranky. A lot of the time, people feel like they're not heard, or they're, and we go through this process, and in the end, we come up with something amazing or we think is amazing. Yeah.
Until someone presents a better idea.
And that's right, until there's a better idea or until it doesn't work. And then we all pat each other on the back and go, oh, well, we gave it a go.
Sounds like there's no place for egos in your organisation, because often what will happen is, the biggest swinging proverbial will walk in the room and say, this is my idea and this is awesome. Yeah. And really, sing its praises. And sometimes if that idea is, trumped with a better idea, you might find that people are trying to go at each other. But in your organisation, it sounds like it's pretty free and there's no room for the ego.
Yeah, that does happen. And then people get offended that someone's disagreeing with their idea, but we work through it.
Yeah, okay.
We work through it. And I'm big on I hate anyone saying like my staff or they work for me, because I think that that's not the way that we operate.
Yeah.
It's us.
Yeah.
We do it together. It's not.
Yeah.
This
is one of the reasons why I often try to draw correlations from elite sporting clubs and elite sporting teams, and that with the small business or the medium-sized business owner, because I think if you have that view, that whole inclusive and if we play together as a team, we each play a different role, and sometimes we give each other a chop out. And I've loved and followed footy ever since I was 6 years old, I guess, and so for over 40 years. And I know you're thinking, GJ, you only look 28, but no, look, I don't take myself too seriously just on that. But look, the sporting team, you've got one centre half back, and you've got some back flankers and a full back, and you've got a guy in the ruck and in the midfield and the forwards. But often a forward might have to defend, and a defender may have to play forward, and we work together as a team and we collaborate. And I think in business, there's no place for staff. There's no place for I'm the boss. Let's all play our role and roll our sleeves up, and no one is too good to do anything. You know what I mean? Oh, that's not my job, that's her job, or that's his job. And I think the other thing, Christian, if I can, what I've really enjoyed so far about our conversation is that there's a saying, it's easy to be high-fiving each other when times are good. The sign of true leadership is when the shits hit the fan and things aren't going too well. And, I really can detect that trait really exists strongly in you. Prior to getting into Mr Miyagi, and you don't look like the traditional Japanese chef, if I can just say that. Sorry, mate, I'm just taking the piss a bit.
It's because I'm tall, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's the whole height thing and the light hair, right? Tell me, you were in the shoe business.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that experience.
Yeah. I always had it in the back of my mind when I was sort of 18, 19, 20, I was working at a pub, and I had this idea of these plastic shoes that used to be around when I was a kid, and there's heaps of baby photos of me wearing them, and they were very commonplace. Everyone had a pair of jelly shoes of jelly sandals, and I couldn't find them. I tried to buy a pair from my sister because I thought it'd be a bit of a funny gag.
Yeah, and nostalgic sort of present from your childhood.
Yeah. And anyway, you couldn't buy them anywhere. They, as far as I could tell, they didn't exist anywhere in the world anymore. The company that used to produce them in Europe didn't exist, and no one had picked up on it. So, I just went about slowly and found a factory in China that had the molds tucked away somewhere, and we started producing them.
And was that just online, or was it online and physical shop front? Or
it started off just online.
Yep.
It was very much. It was for anyone that knows anything about sort of e-com. We were on Shopify before it integrated with anything.
Right.
And now Shopify will integrate with absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And we actually left Shopify because it didn't integrate with anything. It was useless to us.
Yeah.
It's old. It was 2011, and we had a crack at this e-commerce thing, and it went really well. We had 2 years of craziness. We were overseas. We were negotiating with a Canadian distributor, a US distributor. We did all this stuff. It went crazy here. We sold a couple of 100,000 pairs of shoes in Australia.
Wow.
And it was good, but it was a big lesson, because very quickly other shoe companies, big established companies that weren't people 21 years old, they started making them too.
Yeah, whoops.
and very quickly they were everywhere in every shoe shop, and it all sort of fell apart for us. Yeah. So there was a lot of learning in that. Your
first foray into business started off really well, and you got your backside handed to you.
Yeah.
I read a pretty cool book on a business called Zappos by Tony Hsieh. I think it's called Delivering Happiness, and it talks about the experience in an e-commerce business and an online business, and talking about the experience. Actually, quite a good book, and a lot of the things that you're saying to me right now, both at Mr Miyagi and with your jelly bean shoe business, sort of are resonating and take me back to that book. So then you go from manufacturing and subsequently importing the jelly shoe from China. make some good brass along the journey, and then you get your backside handed to you. I'm tipping in typical Kristian Klein style, you dust yourself off in 7 minutes? How did you go from that into a Japanese restaurant?
Well, when things were still going okay in the shoes, that's when the concept for the restaurant came around.
Because you didn't have enough on.
Yeah. and initially I was just going to be the silent sort of partner on it.
You sound like a silent bloke.
Yeah, I'm a very quiet guy. And Andy, my business partner, who's still my business partner now, he was going to do the day-to-day stuff. And then we had some people help us open and some consultants and whatever. And realistically, no idea what I'm doing, right? And neither of us did really. But I think that's part of the reason that we did okay, because we were a bit different. We didn't follow the traditional, pour your wine from the right or your left, or clear from the left, or I don't even know what the rules are. I don't know. We just go, listen, there's someone sitting at table 301 and they've got dirty plates in front of them. Go and get them quick. Take them from the left, the right, the front, the back. I don't care. Let's make sure that those plates are gone.
Yeah.
And we struggled with staff at the very start because some of our guys and girls were very traditionally hospitality trained. And so they were sort of like, who are these two idiots? And why are they don't know what they're doing. These guys got no idea. But that was the idea.
but it also sounds to me you may have had no idea about cooking Japanese cuisine and whether you take the plate from the left or the right or whatever. But I get this sense, and it's quite a strong sense, that you know what the customer experience should be like. Because let's face it, you have been a customer in a restaurant before.
Yeah.
And so it sounds to me, and without repeating what you've said, but the customer experience is a big thing for you.
Yeah, that was the bulk of the meetings we had when setting it up. Was, if I'm a customer, what do I want?
And what was it that you wanted?
We implemented all of these things. Like, why does a waiter customer experience, why is it so stiff? Why is it always stiff? Why does someone stand there in a shirt and an apron and with a notepad and like that? What? I don't get it. Right? We should have awesome people who work with us that will sit down and have a chat. And we had 4 staff sitting down at the tables with the customers when there's a spare seat and having a chat about the menu and just making it super informal. And
had you been at a restaurant like that or overseas somewhere like that or this just idea came to you from the meals that your parents were serving you when you were kids? Tell me, where did this come from?
Probably not. It's an interesting question because I can't say an experience that I've had that was super, super casual.
Yeah.
It was, the formality of it was not attractive to us of the traditional way that things were done. And we just made things super casual, and we made sure that all of the guys and girls on the floor were talkative, and we made sure we hired people who were going to fit the profile of being like an awesome person that you want to hang out with.
Yeah.
But they have to go now because they're going to put your order through.
Yeah.
And that was the mentality, and it. Yeah, I don't know. It went all right.
You know what I'm finding cool about this? If someone jumped into this podcast, say, just 5 minutes ago, and they're hearing from a doyen, if you don't mind me saying, a doyen of the industry in the restaurant game who's pivoted their business. And no, really, I'm taking the piss. But, someone who's very well respected in this industry, who's got a very successful business. If they jumped in 5 minutes ago, they would have heard, this is the roadmap of setting up a successful hospitality business. Have no frigging idea what you're doing, right? Have never done it before. Not be a chef and make as many, there we go, and make as many fire trucking mistakes as possible. Yeah. That's the advice that we've given. But it's pretty cool because I think what you're about, Kristian, is you're about being different, right? And celebrating the difference or celebrating the diversity and saying, let's not conform to the norm. Let's work out actually what is it that the customer really wants, right? Try and find that experience. If we get the experience wrong, let's just change it, right? It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. If I'm going to make a mistake, let's make it real quick and let's work out what works. You're very much an inclusive decision maker within your organisation, and your workshop. This term workshopping has been thrown around a fair few times. And let's workshop the idea. Let's try our very best to leave our egos at the door, and the best idea. Let's run with that, and away we go, and let's operate as a team. Yeah. And I think those lessons are applicable across the board, not just in the hospo industry, but across many industries. If you can really, pivot or circle around the customer and that customer experience, and just be dead set focused on who do you serve and how do you serve them, more often than not, the rest looks after itself. So going through life, and you and I have had a number of conversations over the last 4 weeks to try and lock this in, and you're busier than Ben-Hur, there's no doubt about it. But it's always been a joy having a conversation with you. Nothing seems to stress you out. I get the impression. And in 3 weeks' time, you're going to be a father for the first time, huh? How are you going to fit that one in, big boy?
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I haven't worked that out yet.
First child?
Yeah.
In Australia. There's a couple overseas. No, I'm not joking. Just mugging around with you there. What does the future hold for Kristian Klein, Mr Miyagi? Where do you see it going?
Well, the situation that we're in now has allowed us to really test some stuff out, right? And it's allowed us to also test our brand. To test our brand. We've gone from being the shop in Windsor that is just a shop in Windsor to going out to the suburbs, going out to the wider Melbourne and seeing if we have any brand credibility out there. And it seems from our preliminary testing that we do. So
how do you pick the suburbs that you go to?
We started off just going randomly to Cheltenham with Harry. And so we didn't really pick that one. We just had Harry, and
you knew a bloke who had
a cafe, right? And a great cafe, Frank's. And we went out there and we did the pop up, and it went incredibly well. We did a few more, and they didn't go as well. So we started thinking, okay, how are we going to profile a suburb and why it works? And we're making it all up, but we sort of look at an area like Cheltenham where we go, they're our people, because they all lived in Windsor and Paran and South Yarra 5, 6, 7 years ago. And now they've wanted to buy a house with a backyard and start the family. So we've got so many people who were our customers 7 years ago who are now living a little bit out of the hustle and bustle of Windsor or the city or whatnot, and they've gone out to the burbs. So we looked at what suburbs have been like young family growth suburbs, and they tend to be the ones that have gone the best for us.
Okay, so where I live, Essendon, is a young family growth suburb.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
what's the deal that you do? And without going into the intricacies, but you spoke with your mate Harry, who's got Frank's. You said, look, you can have all the revenue from the desserts. Did you do something similar with, Assembly Ground and Ascot Food Store and these guys?
It's the same way it works, but we changed our offering to guarantee dessert sales. Because what was happening is we'd go out and use someone's kitchen, and then they'd put together a dessert that didn't sell as well as the previous cafe. So we'd send some guidelines about, this works and this works. And then for some reason, whatever, that dessert just didn't work so well. So we had the problem where we were going out to use the cafe's kitchen, and they weren't getting that much in return. So everything's now, we've guaranteed minimum spends on everything, that everything includes a dessert. So
everyone wins.
Everyone wins. Everyone wins. And we get to connect with their local community. They get to have an event going on with their community that they love as well. It's been a really fun experience, and like a great branding experience, but it's just been nice. It's got community feel.
It definitely has community feel. I can tell you that, just experiencing it myself. I think the other thing too is, sure, you're getting brand awareness in various different suburbs, but the cafes and the restaurants that you're tapping into and utilising their kitchens, they're also getting brand awareness by matching their brand with your brand. And I think that's really good. Now, look, I hate to talk like an accountant, but, I am a CPA, car parking attendant. No, I'm a certified practicing accountant, and we often talk about the numbers. Funny that. You mentioned a couple of times about the economics. Tell me about your experience and how often you are looking at the numbers, and when you know what works and what doesn't work, what do you look for, on a scorecard or an indicator to help you know how well you're going?
Well, so
was that a sigh there, Christian?
Yeah, because it's a complicated question because every time we change something, the percentages of what the goal are within that amount change.
Yeah,
so
right.
In the traditional restaurant, if we end up with a 10% margin at the end of the year, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's tiny. That's also a difficult number to reach sometimes, and so we're dealing with tiny margins. But when we go to a takeaway model, then the margins on the actual food and the experience are way better because you don't have floor staff, you don't have people, having to take your order because it's all sort of a bit more automated. But at the same time, we've then got 4 other leases that we're paying rent on.
Yeah.
So you can individualize things that are working well and that are profitable or are not profitable. But at the moment, we've got to look at things from a whole business perspective.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. That's the challenge in finding things that are profitable or not, because you can exclude the rent on that building because you're not using it right now. But you know what?
Still paying
it.
Mate, I want to talk a bit about how nimble you are as a business owner and how you manage to change and look at the offerings and all that sort of stuff. And we have touched on that a little bit. But before I do that, I want to talk about this concept. It's not mine. It's been around for over 30 years, which talks to the balanced scorecard. And the balanced scorecard is a way of looking at your organisation through the 4 key pillars, which are your people, the processes, the customers that experience your offering, and your financials. I want to talk a little bit about your people. It sounds like you are a very much a people person. You spoke about having people working in hospitality that may be not as rigid as some that have had experience in that industry for a long time. How do you source your people, and how do you keep them engaged in what it is that you do? How do you include them in the decision making? Just tell me a little bit about that and how you guys operate at Miyagi.
Yeah, you've sourcing them is an interesting thing. We have a business that we try to run it at least like a restaurant as possible.
You're right.
And we run it like a corporate office.
Yeah.
How we do things. And something that we really struggle with is finding great people who want to work, who are maybe corporate people, their brains, they're fantastic, who have an issue with working in hospitality because it seems like they're such different worlds when they're not really. And we struggle to get somebody who might be working in a big consultancy in the city who would be perfect for us and might get the same salary and the same everything, but I'm not just going to go and work at a restaurant. So finding great people is a real challenge, but it's really important that once we get great people that they hang around.
How do you do that? How do you hold on to them?
That's a tough one. I don't know, but we do.
Yeah. Well, there must be something. There must be something in the secret sauce there.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you create an environment that allows? I get the impression that one of the things that you guys do is you create this environment that allows people to be the very best that they can be. And you talk about the collaborative discussions that you're having with your team. I think there seems to be a lot of synergy in your organisation. And once people buy into the culture at Miyagi, they seem to stick around. It's the impression that I get.
Yeah, I guess it is. It is very much a team environment, and everyone's opinion is valued, and everyone gets a say on everything. We frequently ask everyone in the business, from the people from the general manager down to people who have been with us for a short period of time, washing dishes.
Yeah.
How can we help things? You got any ideas? Because we'll take them from everywhere, and they're all important to us. What somebody might see in the dish pit, we might not see in the office, but it's great to hear if there are improvements that can be made across the whole business. So I don't know. It's probably an important thing that we just make sure that everybody's heard and everyone has a platform to be able to share what they think will work or what won't, or a lot of the time it's not any use at all. But sometimes you get a little nugget of gold and you can act on it.
Before we finish up, And the last question I'll leave you with, so I'm going to let you ponder this as I ask the question before it, but I really want to finish it up on maybe two or three takeaways that you could share with our listeners as to what you think are important for you on your journey towards success. But before I get to that, so I'm just giving you that as that's my gift, right? So
Thanks.
you can think about it. No, you're welcome. Sure, I've taken an hour of your time. I wrote a book a few years ago, which is called Have Your Cake and Sell It Too, the 7 Key Ingredients to Business Success. And the book there is built on the notion that, in my mind's eye, every business owner should begin a business with the end in mind, and that is to build a business ready for sale. What does the future look like for your organisation, your vision? Are you one day hoping to sell that business? Will you want to keep it? Will you just shut it down? What does it look like in the next 3 to 5 years for you guys? Or you may not even know.
Yeah. I also feel like you should sell a business when you've reached the maximum level that you can take it to.
Yeah.
In a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think we're there.
Yeah, right.
So I think there's so many ideas to get thrown around our office daily, especially during this time when every single idea is more important than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And other things that we could be doing and we will be doing that don't give me any aspirational end date. It's just we'll keep going for now.
That sounds cool to me. Now, as we finish up, Kristian, can you share with me what are your 2 or 3 key takeaways, that some knowledge or something, some experiences that you could share with our listeners that might be beneficial for them in their business? What would you say are the top 3 important things, the secret ingredient?
There was a guy that I used to work for when I was doing some event stuff years ago, and we had an event that the date fell on Christmas Eve. And we said, oh, well, we'll just shut that night because Christmas Eve, no one's going to go out. No one's going to go out partying on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. And we said, it's going to be too hard, so we'll just shut. And he said, and it stuck with me forever, he said, well, where's everyone going? I said, well, they'll probably just stay home. He goes, hang on, so you're telling me that everyone does this once a week, every week, but on this night they're not going to go, which they won't, right? And I said, no. He says, well, it's your job to dangle the carrot to get them to come. That's your whole job. You can't just not do it.
Yeah.
And I always think about that because difficult night to run an event on Christmas Eve. Impossible. But his mentality was, well, the people are still there. It's you as the marketer have got to work out how to get them to come, right? That's not my problem.
Yeah.
You make it work. Yeah. And that's sort of the way I look at things, because we've got people are there, people are eating, people are drinking, people are going about their business. How do you become the one that they go to for that?
Yeah, awesome, mate.
The clientele doesn't just disappear. They might move on to something else, but it's your job to keep them and keep providing something that interests them.
Yeah, that's some pretty profound advice there, pal. Hey, Kristian Klein from Mr Miyagi. I've got to tell you, Mr Miyagi sounds like a cool place to work. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like a really cool place. I really was thinking about, when you were saying those guys in corporate, I was thinking, shit, can I get a job there? Look, it sounds like a cool...
We can bring our accounts in-house.
What's he doing? He's our accountant. He's smacking down a few... so look, it sounds like a cool place to work. I've tasted the food. It's magnificent. I implore everybody to look out for when you're in our area or in your area. Kristian Klein, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your humility and your fun and for sharing everything. Mate, really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks very much.